Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the final week of Season 8 of the Lyons Quiz League. The overall standings are not going to be accurate because some people have played 5 weeks, but they look like this. I'm about 43 points behind Rasmus, which means I have no chance of catching him unless I get like every question right, which isn't going to happen. But I think I'll finish top, hopefully 5 at least, maybe higher. So I think it's been a good season, and I think there is going to be a championship after this. So the winner of the season is whoever wins that, rather than who wins the regular season. So I'm pretty okay with where things stand right now. I've had some very solid performances, so we will see if I can keep that up in the final week, which is air themed. All 7 quizzes are just related to air in some way. We've had like fire and earth and water in previous seasons, so this season is air for week number 5. Starting with general knowledge, written by Benny. Air fryers cook food through what method of heat transfer, in which heat is transferred via a fluid? In the case of air fryers, a fan circulates hot air, allowing all parts of a food to be heated by this method. I'm not sure. I know that there are 3 methods of heat transfer: conduction, convection, radiation, but to be honest with you, I have never learned which is which or what any of them actually mean. I'm going to guess radiation because, like, a radiator is like a like a fan or a heater, basically, that it's just like air, just heats things. Which, I don't know. This sounds like it could be radiation. I mean, circulating hot air sounds kind of like radiation to me. Although, again, I don't really know the technical differences between the 3, so I probably am guessing the wrong one. But to me, this sort of sounds like radiation. And of course, fluid and air is a fluid, I believe, technically. So, like, heat being transferred via air, still could make sense. Question 2. The second movement of one composer's orchestral suite, number 3 in D major, can be played entirely on the lowest string of the violin, and thus is often called an air on that string. Name either the composer or the note that names the string on which the air is played. So this is 1 in 7 chance. I mean, I have absolutely no idea who the composer is, so I'm just going to guess a letter. Air on I don't know. E string, maybe. I mean, that could be that's certainly one of the 7 notes. I mean, there are more notes, but I'm not going to guess like sharp or flat because there's no way that is a higher probability. But yeah, it could really be anything. I mean, it could be A, which is where guitar starts. It could be G. It could be. It's probably not G because I feel like G string means something very different, and if you say that, I feel like that would get memed if it was actually called that. So it's probably something else. But anyway, I'm just gonna guess E. I have no idea. Question 3: the world record for the largest hot air balloon festival is held by the festival seen below, which happens yearly in what city? Again, no idea. It looks American to me. I mean, I took a look at the picture a little more closely, and I don't know, the architecture, the cars and stuff, the things that I see looked American. The vegetation kind of works as well. Looks kind of dry-ish. We've got mountains in the background, so I'm just gonna have to try and guess a city. My first thought was like Denver, for example, but then I thought these mountains aren't big enough to be Denver. Like the Rockies are just larger than that. Salt Lake City doesn't work for the same reasons. So I was just trying to think of more cities that might have mountains in the background, and I thought of Boise in Idaho, which is, I don't know, I feel like it could make a lot of sense, but I have no idea. I mean, I've never heard of the festival, so this is just going to be a guess. There's not really anything else I can do. Question 4. Anton Chigurh uses a captive bolt pistol powered by air pressure for some of his many kills in which movie? Before some of his kills, he lets potential victims bet their life on the outcome of a coin toss. Call it. Man, that movie is so good. This is No Country for Old Men. If you have not seen that, go watch it now. It is fantastic. Question 5. According to Swiss air quality company IQAir, 49 of the most polluted cities in the world in 2024 were in Asia, with most in India. The only exception was the capital of what African country, which is 9th on the list. Its capital is located where the Logone River splits off from the Shari River, which combine to form most of the border between this country and its southwestern neighbor. So the Shari is the primary river of Chad. I know that for sure. So I think it's just Chad, because N'Djamena is like on the border in southwestern Chad, which I think is where the Shari is, and it kind of flows down to the south, or maybe it goes the other way. I'm not sure. But my other thought was like, I thought it could be like Central African Republic, but Bangui is on the Ubangi, not the Shari and the Logone. So I think like Ubangi Shari is like a subdivision, so I know that it, they're in similar areas, but I'm pretty sure that it's not the CAR. And I can't think of anything else that works other than Chad for like where would the Shari River go. So I think that's just has to be the answer. And the southwestern neighbor is probably like Nigeria or Cameroon, one of the two. Finally, question 6. What sport is central to the movies Air and Air Bud? So I believe the original Air Bud is basketball. I don't know what Air is, but it could be a Michael Jordan movie, like Air Jordan, maybe. Could make sense, but Air Bud is definitely basketball. So, yeah, I think I've done okay with this. I mean, 2 and 3 are both guesses that have a reasonable chance of being right, but they're just guesses. 1 as well, it's also a guess. I mean, that probably has a higher chance just because there are fewer things to choose from, but I still could be picking the wrong one. And then 4, 5, and 6 are hopefully correct. I am going to enhance 5. I feel confident enough about it, and I think knowing what the Shari and the Logon are definitely not trivial pieces of knowledge, even among a geography-oriented community. So I will enhance number 5, and we will see. Convection, fantastic. Are you serious, dude? It's really called the G-string? Okay, man. I just thought it wouldn't be that, because, like, that obviously has another meaning that I feel like anytime you say the name of that concerto or whatever, people would just snicker. But I guess it just has a completely different meaning in a music sense, so fair enough. Convection, unlucky. I mean, again, I have absolutely no idea what the differences are between the 3, so that's just tough. And then Albuquerque, that's another city that has mountains that aren't quite as tall as the Rockies next to it. So again, makes sense. It's just kind of bad luck. So there's some tough luck on that quiz because I feel like I had 3 reasonable guesses and 3 ones that I knew, and I only got 3. But oh well, that'll happen sometimes. Quiz number 2. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. This line from a Shakespeare sonnet was recited by a fictional captain with what first name in the episode The Schizoid Man, set in 2365. A French New Wave filmmaker with this first name directed Breathless. So first I was like, I have no idea what this is. And then I realized, okay, set in 2365, this is like, it's some kind of TV series that is set far in the future. And I thought, is it Star Trek, right? Because that's kind of a natural place for my brain to go, I guess. And then I realized, wait, like Jean-Luc Picard and then Jean-Luc Godard would be the name of the French director. I don't know a lot of French directors. It's probably him and then Truffaut are probably the only ones I can even name. But Jean-Luc is the first name of both of the 2 guys I mentioned first, so it just kind of has to be the answer. Kind of a fun one, to be honest, to think about. It took me a second to get there, but it's like you can kind of piece it together even if you don't know the exact quote, or even if you don't know off the top of your head who directed the movie Breathless. Question 2, while diving, many types of turtle undergo enteral respiration, a form of breathing that occurs through what excretory, I think it's excretory cavity, also possessed by most amphibians, reptiles, and birds. This is called a cloaca? Cloaca? Cloaca. I have no idea how I'm supposed to say that word. I know what this is, and I know that that's what it's called, but I have no idea how you're supposed to say it. But that's the word, so I'm pretty sure that's the thing. I basically just said the same thing twice. Question 3, Take My Breath Away, a song by Berlin, won the 1986 Academy Award for Best Song after its appearance in what film, which also featured songs like Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone. The 2022 One Republic song, I Ain't Worried, featured in this film's sequel. No clue. Absolutely no clue. This is just take a shot in the dark. Guess a movie. Dirty Dancing. It's not even right, is it? Because that's the I've had the time of my life, right? So it's I don't know, man. Like Saturday Night Fever. That's a thing, right? No idea what it's about. No idea what songs are in it. No idea anything really. But let's be honest. I don't know what's going on here, and I can't be bothered to think more about this question because I'm just lost. Question 4. The slogan "I Can't Breathe," originating from the last words of Eric Garner at the hands of an NYPD officer, received new attention in 2020 after it was used by whom? Because of this person's usage of the phrase, many use the slogan "I can breathe" upon hearing about the conviction of Derek Chauvin. This is George Floyd. This was very much a big deal when it happened, at least around here. But yeah, definitely George Floyd. Question 5. Percy Shelley called what concept the breath of autumn's being in an ode titled for it? This concept was represented in Greek mythology by Zephyrus, whose siblings Boreas, Notus, and Eurus embodied this concept's counterparts. So Boreas is the north wind, Notus is the south, and Eurus is the east wind. So this is the west wind. Ode to the West Wind is the name of the Shelley poem. And finally, question 6. For a few months in 2008, what magician held the record for underwater breath holding after doing so for 17 minutes on the Oprah Winfrey Show, known for his stunts and feats of endurance, such as encasing himself in ice or living in a suspended glass box for over a month? Don't know. I'm going to guess David Copperfield, because that is a magician who exists, and that is about the only thing I know about him, but that's about the only thing I know about any magician. I mean, it's not going to be like Penn and Teller or whatever, because it's like one guy. Maybe it's one of the two, but it seems unlikely. It's not like Siegfried and Roy, whatever. And then, to be honest, I don't think I can name another magician, at least one who would fit the clues. So, yeah, David Copperfield it is. As for what to enhance, honestly, kind of tough. Not really sure what the play is here. I think I'll go for the West Wind, just because I feel like knowing the gods of the wind in Greek myth is definitely not trivial, and I think that knowing the Shelley poem is also not trivial. Maybe this is a mistake. I don't know how easy cloaca is, but maybe it's harder than I think. But I don't know. I feel like science questions tend to play a little bit easier among this crowd. So, and then one again, that one could be harder than I think. But if I'm able to piece it together, most people probably are. So I'm going to go with 5, and we will see. That's actually not a bicycle. That is a dude. Okay, of course that was wrong, because why not? Probably not including the lower tires of those ones. Okay. Jean-Luc, Cloaca, Top Gun, sure, yeah. George Floyd, West Wind, David Blaine. Okay, 4 out of 6. David Blaine, I've heard the name before, but I'm never getting that. I just don't know who that is. And Top Gun, I mean, that's a skill issue, let's be honest. I've never seen the movie. I'm not particularly interested in it, but it's a famous movie that had a famous sequel that came out recently, so it kind of makes sense. But I just, yeah, I don't know my movie stuff, clearly. You guys know that already if you've been watching these things for long enough. Quiz number 3 is pop culture. First, the band Starship was initially formed by members of the band Jefferson Starship, which itself was initially formed by members of the band Jefferson Airplane. Starship's first #1 single was We Built This City, a song beloved by many but hated by many, in which the band claims they built this city on rock and roll. This is really funny because Benny knows that I hate this song, and I know he couldn't resist putting it in the quiz. I just I don't know. I find the song irritating and overplayed and not particularly fun to listen to. But yeah, it's been I enjoy still that he included this question in here. Gave me a good laugh at least. Question 2, the image below is taken from what 1994 movie? Despite looking catastrophic, this scene is actually triumphant, as the plane was a cargo plane being pulled with no passengers, and all the passengers on the bus had gotten off when the explosives it were carrying were detonated. This is, I believe, called Speed. This is just that movie about the bus that blows up if it goes below like 50 miles an hour or whatever. It's just, I feel like this is something that's referenced often enough that I just know what it is by now, even if I've never seen it. It's just kind of a famous thing, I guess. I think the first reference to it I ever saw was it was a Cyanide and Happiness short or whatever. That was the guy who was like super fast or whatever, and there was like a bus and he would like ran alongside it and he was like as fast as the bus. Anyway, good times. Question 3, what cartoon character has an alter ego known only as the World War I flying ace, who pretends to do battle with the Red Baron throughout the many pieces of media he is in? This is Snoopy from the Peanuts comics. We had, when I was a kid, we had a giant book that was literally every Peanuts comic in one volume. And yeah, there were a lot of World War I flying ace, and well, there was all kinds of stuff in there, but I'm relatively familiar with Peanuts thanks to that. Question 4, the crash of the Sydney to Los Angeles bound Oceanic Airlines Flight 815 kickstarted the events of what 2004 show? Survivors of the crash include a spinal surgeon who leads the group and a man with the same name as a 17th century philosopher. Lost is the best guess I have here. I don't know if this is right or not. I think Lost is about people who end up in a plane crash and then, get lost, stranded somewhere. So it's definitely the best guess I'm gonna come up with, but it could also be something else. But I think this roughly fits the plot of Lost. Question 5. Players can choose over 100 different aircraft to pilot in the 2024 edition of a game in what series? The last few games in this plotless series have been Xbox exclusive, which makes sense given that Xbox's parent company is name dropped in the series title. Okay, I'm like really confused by this one because Xbox is owned by Microsoft, as far as I know. I can't think of a game that has Microsoft in the title. What I thought of before I read that clue was Flight Simulator, because that's like a, you know, that's like a game where it doesn't have a plot and you just fly planes. So it makes sense, right? But I thought it was called Flight Simulator, which, unless Xbox is owned by a company called Flight or a company called Simulator or a company called Flight Simulator, then that seems weird to me. So maybe it's called like Microsoft Flight Simulator or something, but I thought it was called Flight Simulator. So I'm kind of torn as to what, I mean, it says, given that Xbox's parent company is name dropped in the series title, like in the title. So like presumably the title that I give has to include that. So I don't know. Like I think the only thing I can say here is like Microsoft Flight Simulator, which maybe that's what it's called. I don't know. I've always known it as Flight Simulator. I've never played it. I just feel like when people refer to it, they say Flight Simulator. So, not sure, to be honest. But I guess Flight Simulator is a generic enough term because that's just a thing that's used by like astronauts and stuff. So maybe they had to add on Microsoft to the name. So I don't know. I feel like this makes sense. I mean, I can't think of another plotless flying game. Like I feel like this is just has to be what I guess. But I just didn't know it had Microsoft in the name. If it does, I mean, I don't know if this is the right answer or not, but it's the best guess I've got. So I'm probably gonna look really silly when I see the answer. It's something entirely different. But anyway, enough waffling there. Finally, question 6. After a premonition about a plane crash, the teenager Alex experiences one but survives it with his companions, who all nevertheless still die from bizarre accidents. This describes the first film in what horror franchise, whose installments all revolve around premonitions of disaster and the inevitability of death, hence its title. So I thought about this for a while because I was like, okay, hence its title. Like that's clearly a clue that tells you that the title has, you know, something to do with what's being described. But I can't think of anything, and it's because, you know, obviously I haven't seen this, and it's possible I haven't even heard of it. But I'm going to say Evil Dead, because I believe that that is a horror franchise that exists. It doesn't really sound like what's being described here, but again, I can't think of anything better, and I think it's just going to be something I don't have enough knowledge to get, so I'm just going to give up and say this, because I got nothing better. As for what to enhance, I'm really not sure. I don't feel good enough about Lost to be confident that that's correct. Same deal with number 5. Like, I have no idea if it's actually called that or not. 1, I think, is too easy, and I think it's between 2 and 3. I might go with 3. I feel like maybe I'm more familiar with Peanuts than the average person because I, like, just had the book when I was a kid, and maybe that's not actually that easy, or maybe it's super easy, I don't know. But I feel like maybe younger people might not be familiar with that, and then Speed is something that's, again, I've never seen it, but the fact that I knew it immediately, it's something that's referenced so often that I don't think it's a good idea to enhance that. So I'm going to go with 3. And we're just going to see what happens. Yeah, I don't know. It is called Microsoft Flight Simulator. Bro, okay. Wow, okay, that works. I mean, I just was like, apparently I have to say the name of the company, so I'm just going to add the word Microsoft to what I thought it was. And it works, I guess. Speed, Snoopy, Lost. So Lost is correct as well, so it's 5 out of 6. Final Destination I've heard of. I didn't actually know that was horror. I mean, I think I could have told you it was a film series, but I didn't know they were horror movies. And I certainly didn't know what they were about. So that's always going to be a tough one for me to pick up. But my best quiz of the week so far is the pop culture quiz. How many times have I been able to say that? Maybe never. But I think I got 3, 4, and then 5. I mean, look, I'll take it. I normally don't do as well with quiz 3. So that is a fine result. Going on to quiz. I always say question. Quiz 4. These birds are endemic to New Zealand. That is the kiwi on the bottom, the kakapo, I think, in the top left, and I have no idea what the one in the top right is. but this is New Zealand. I think this is going to play at like 95% because this feels very easy with the Kiwi. Question 2, the name of what mythological bird has been censored from this image? I don't know. Phoenix, I guess, maybe. I don't know. It's like probably the national airline of Indonesia, but like I don't know what that is. I don't know national airlines. I don't fly to Indonesia. This is just not something I would ever know, so I have no chance on this one unless my guess happens to be correct. Just guessing the most famous kind of mythological bird. Who drew these birds? This one is really bugging me because it feels like I should know what's going on here. I mean, as usual, just a surname is fine. Makes me think that this is somebody who is much more commonly known by their surname, so that their first name isn't necessarily as known by people. But like, I can't think of a person that I know for drawing like elaborate animals, birds. I just like none of this rings a bell to me at all. I'm gonna say Rousseau because Henri Rousseau is a French painter who painted like tigers and stuff, and like I don't know, maybe he drew birds. Like I don't know. I figure this could make sense given like Jean-Jacques Rousseau is a philosopher, so like maybe you might get confused with the two Rousseaus, and you might just say like you might be hesitant to, you might not know the first name. I don't know. I'm making things up. I have no idea here. And I'm probably going to be really sad when the answer ends up being something obvious. But honestly, I don't know what's going on. So I'm just going to give up on this one and say Rousseau. Question 4. Sadako Sasaki was perhaps best known for her mission of creating what number of these items? This is like an origami crane, I guess. But I don't know. I mean, like, I if this is somebody on a mission of creating a number of something, it's probably a pretty large number. I don't know what is a normal order of magnitude for me to be guessing here. I'm gonna try like 10,000 maybe. I mean that seems like something that is feasible but would still take absolutely forever. But I don't know who this person is, and I've never heard of whatever's being referenced here, so I'm not gonna get this unless I get lucky. Question 5. Perhaps the highest ranking bird in the world. This penguin is a major general in what country's military? Again, I'm not sure here. The guess that I came up with after looking at the picture for a little while was Norway. Just kind of because the like red, white, and blue on the drum kind of reminded me of the Norwegian flag. It's clearly something that has like a king because it has like a royal like ensign or coat of arms or whatever that is. The colors seem reasonable. The people look European, and the penguin suggests that we're probably maybe somewhere cold. Although Norway doesn't have penguins. Wait a second. I guess Norway does have penguins if you count like what Bouvet Island or like Queen Maud Land or whatever, like Antarctic stuff. So I don't know. Maybe Norway technically does have penguins. They certainly don't in mainland Norway, but this doesn't look like anything southern hemisphere to me either. I'm gonna be sad if it's like New Zealand or something, but no, there's like a royal coat of arms. This is something that has like a monarch, I think, at least used to. I don't know, man. I'm just waffling. I don't know what I'm saying. This Norway makes sense to me, but it's a total guess, basically. Finally, what character is this man? Carol Spinney, most well known for playing. Surely this is Big Bird. I'm pretty sure those are the feet of Big Bird, or the legs of Big Bird, I should say. So 6 is easy. 5, I don't know, but I have an okay guess. 4, I really don't know. 3, I really don't know. 2, I really don't know. 1, I think is really easy. Also, yeah, New Zealand. Why would it be New Zealand if question 1 was New Zealand? Yeah, I'm gonna enhance 6, which is like it's kind of cowardly, but like I don't have enough confidence that anything else is correct, and I think 1 is even easier than 6. So 6 it is, but this for me is just a really rough quiz. It's gonna be wrong, isn't it? Oh, it's actually right. Let's go. Oh, what? Audubon is an artist? I thought he was just like a bird guy. I mean, like yeah, he's a bird guy, but I thought he was like I thought he was like a conservationist, like naturalist kind of person. Like I thought he was just a dude who like founded the bird society or whatever the heck. I mean, like, right? Because it's like that's like the bird like conservation company or whatever is named after him. I mean, I think of him as a I think of him as a bird person, I guess. Not the one from what is it, BoJack Horseman? I don't know, but I don't think of him as an artist, which is clearly a skill issue. Because I mean, obviously he's an artist if those are drawings by him. But I honestly, I'm not sure I would have guessed that. That just didn't. It really didn't occur to me. 1,000 is unfortunate. I thought 1,000 was a little bit low. I mean, I feel like if you really went for it, you could create 1,000 of those in not an insane amount of time. But I don't know. There's clearly a reference I'm not getting there. Norway was correct, at least. I mean, the colors and the coldness and the European lookingness of the people ended up working out for that one, which is good. So I'm glad I was able to piece it together. The Kea is the bird that I didn't know. Garuda, I have no idea what that is. Some kind of Indonesian mythical bird, I guess. I don't know. This is just like, do you know the name of the national airline of Indonesia? Which is definitely a no from me. So that's a 3 out of 6. That's fine, but I mean, that was a tough quiz, to be honest. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't a tough quiz, and that was just stuff that I didn't know. But yeah, I struggled quite a bit with that one. Quiz number 5. This is a science quiz. Number 1, the Tsiolkovsky rocket equation says that the change in velocity for a rocket is proportional to a logarithm of the ratio between final and initial values for what quantity? The final value for this quantity is sometimes referred to as its dry form since all propellant has been used. I don't know. I was thinking for a little bit about like what could this be? Like, I mean, I really don't know. It's just going to be like guess a quantity. I mean, I might try like acceleration. It seems weird though, right? Because like acceleration is the derivative of velocity. Like, does that make sense? Like final and initial, because like the propellant thing makes me think it's like, okay, you're like propelling it forward, like you're making it accelerate, right? That sounds to me like, does that, I just don't know if that makes sense. Like, because it's the velocity, acceleration is the time derivative of velocity. So it's like the change in velocity is the acceleration. I'm not sure this makes sense. Like, the more I think about it, the more I realize I'm not sure that's a good answer. But it's like, what is it then? I'm going to come back to this, and I might have to pause the recording to think for a bit. But yeah, every time I read it again, I realize acceleration is probably a bad answer. Going to be sad if it is the answer, but oh well. Let's go to question 2 first. The mirrors found on the James Webb Space Telescope are made of what metal? Noted for its stiffness and extremely light weight. Its name comes from a mineral whose varieties include emerald and aquamarine. So this one I thought about for a while because I was like, why don't I know this? I was just kind of trying to think of elements. I eventually came up with beryllium, and I feel like this could make sense because, like, I know that beryl is a thing. Like, I know it's a mineral of some kind. If you asked me what beryl was, I wouldn't have been able to tell you beyond it's some kind of, like, rock or gem or something. But I think it works because, like, extremely lightweight fits given the atomic mass of 4. The weird thing is that I haven't really heard of beryllium being used for anything. Like, I feel like a lot of metals, like, I don't know, like aluminum and titanium and iron and whatever, you hear about those all the time because they get used for a lot of things. And I feel like you never hear about beryllium. But I don't know, maybe that's what makes this question interesting is like, oh, most things aren't made out of this, but these are because of these properties. So maybe, I mean, but like the whole mineral thing, I was trying to think of other elements. I couldn't really think of another one that made much sense at all that would be like named after a mineral, if that makes sense. Like calcium, like calcite, right? Like that could make sense, but like I don't think that, I mean, calcite is one of the things on like the Mohs scale, but I don't think it has to do with like emerald and aquamarine. Also calcium, like I think of calcium as like a nutrient, but I don't think of it as like, oh yes, here's a slab of calcium, you know what I mean? But maybe I'm totally wrong. It could be calcium. The other thing I thought it was like fluorite, right? Because that's another one of the Mohs scale things, but like fluorine is not a metal, so it's definitely not that. Anyway, question 3, what name is given to the thin wispy clouds whose bases are higher in the atmosphere than most other common cloud types? These, I believe, are cirrus clouds. Those are just, I don't know, the thin ones. Question 4, below is a graph whose x-axis shows what quantity, whose SI unit is one of the 7 base units at different altitudes in the Earth's atmosphere. This is, I believe this is a temperature graph. I've seen this before. I took like an kind of a basic astronomy class when I was in college, and this was definitely a graph I remember seeing, the whole sort of like S-shaped temperature curve as you go up in the atmosphere, which is kind of an interesting thing. My first another thing that I considered was like pressure, for example, but that doesn't make sense because pressure just decreases linearly as you go up. So I'm pretty sure it's a temperature graph, and it's just something that I've seen before, and that's kind of a fun thing. Question 5: astronomical objects that never have enough energy to fuse hydrogen in their cores to create helium and become stars are known as dwarfs of what color? Pretty sure this is what a brown dwarf is. I am a little worried that it's like a white. I don't think it's a white dwarf because a white dwarf is like the thing that like becomes. Does it become becomes a neutron star? No, a neutron star becomes a supernova. But it's like when a star dies, if it's like a really big star, if it's like a really big star, it becomes like a neutron star and then a supernova. If it's like a little less big and doesn't have enough energy to become that, I think it becomes a white dwarf. But this is like a failed star. This is like a star that's like you can't even do fusion in the first place. So I think this is what a brown dwarf is. I think red dwarf is also a thing, but I think that's just like a small red star. But I feel like brown makes sense. It's like, oh, you failed as a star, so you didn't even produce color, kind of thing. Anyway, I know that brown dwarf is a phrase that exists. I'm fairly sure that that's what this is. Finally, question 6: the Milky Way and Andromeda are 2 of the tens of galaxies in what collection of galaxies which are gravitationally bound to each other and is part of the larger Virgo supercluster? This is called the local group. This is just, I don't know, this is just the collection of galaxies that the Milky Way is in. That's scientists with their incredibly creative naming systems like, yes, what should we call this? The local group. Yeah, it's the best they could come up with, I guess. And then question 1. Man. I am going to pause the recording and think a little longer about this because I kind of decided before starting the recording that I was going to guess acceleration. And then I realized as I read through it again, like, this just isn't right, is it? So, yeah, I'll be right back. All right, so I decided to guess mass instead, which is like, this is another quantity that exists. And I was like, the more I was reading through it, it was like, dry mass, like that could make sense because it's like the propellant is like, it's like some fluid that is just in some chamber somewhere. And it's like, as you use the propellant, it increases your velocity and then it decreases the mass, right? And it's like, it's dry once the propellant is gone and the mass has decreased by a certain amount. I think it's a better guess than acceleration, but again, there's a bunch of quantities that this could be. I'm just like kind of guessing the most generic one because as I read through it again, it's like, this kind of could work, but I don't know. I'm gonna enhance 5 because I'm like 95% sure that this is what a brown dwarf is, and I really hope I'm not confusing it with something else. But I'm pretty sure it's not a white dwarf, and I don't think it's any of the other kinds of dwarf stars. So number 5 it is, and then we will see if that was a wise decision or a very foolish one. It's mass. Let's go. Oh, and it's beryllium, dude. No way. That is actually 6 out of 6. Okay, I'm very happy with that. Mass. That was clutch. That was very fortunate that I kind of had that last second realization. But yeah, I just figured it made more sense as a guess, just given the wording of the clues. So went for it and paid off. And then the rest, yeah, I mean, I knew most of these, but beryllium, again, I'm happy with figuring that one out because it did take a good amount of thinking for me to think of that, because I was like, I don't know any elements that are named after minerals. Why don't I know this? I have to start thinking of stuff. And then it kind of popped into my head. I was like, you know what? That actually sounds kind of reasonable. So let's go to quiz 6. Am I yapping more than normal? I don't know. I always yap so much in these videos. I can't even tell. But anyway, that's what you guys are here for anyway, right? Question 1 of quiz 6, which is a music quiz. Some woodwind instruments are rarer than others. The duduk, an oboe-like Armenian instrument, was popularized as an instrument in film scores by The Last Temptation of Christ, a 1988 film by what director? Who also directed Casino, Departed, and Goodfellas. I believe this is Martin Scorsese. Most famous one here is probably Goodfellas, although these are all pretty famous, I think. This is, I think, going to play pretty easy. I barely got it because I don't think I've ever seen a movie directed by him, but, you know, these are just quite famous things, fortunately for me. Question 2, what French composer was perhaps being slightly cheeky when he wrote that a sopranino saxophone in F, an instrument that does not exist, should be used when playing the composition heard here? I think I will go ahead and play this because I think it's public domain and I don't think there's any worry of me getting copyright struck for this. So I'll play this. Hopefully it actually plays properly. You guys can hear it. I think you can. Okay, that's going to be a really weird, awkward segment of the video if you couldn't actually hear that, but I think you could. So, this is, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. This is, can you identify the composition? With classical music, I know a lot of composers and I know a lot of things that they did, but I don't know what these things sound like because I don't listen to them because I have no interest in listening to classical music. So, like, it could be anyone. Like, I have no idea what the composition is. I'm going to say Debussy because he is a French composer who did a lot of things, but there are a lot of French composers. There's Ravel and there's Saint-Saëns and there's et cetera, right? So who the heck knows, basically. Question 3, the opening of Herbie Hancock's song Watermelon Man from his album Headhunters features Bill Summers playing what unconventional instruments? A novelty song titled For These Objects has been joked to be in O of log n runtime by computer scientists, implying that it is a very long song made from a very small number of unique words. I'm even more clueless on this one than I was on the last one. I have no idea what's going on here. Made from, like, unique words. I'm going to say Scrabble tiles, which is probably the dumbest guess of all time. But the whole, like, words thing in the last clue makes me think that it has something to do with that. And it's like instruments in quotes is going to be something that's not normally an instrument anyway. So basically, it could be literally anything. And I just don't know, basically. So I'm just going to guess this and give up because I have no idea what's going on. Question 4, what small instrument which has finger holes dotted around a usually ceramic body is being emulated in the clips heard here? I might get copyright struck for this, but you know what? Not a lot of people watch these videos and they do not get a lot of money anyway. So honestly, what the hell? If I get a copyright claim, then whatever. I'm just going to play the clip anyway because I don't care. And I don't feel like depriving you of the clip. Anyway, as I was saying, I don't feel like depriving you of the clip, just one single clip, so I can, like, link it in the description, have you listen to it there. It's fine, you can just hear the clip here. I might get a copyright claim for that. My guess here is that this is an ocarina, because it kind of sounded like video game music, which immediately made me think of, like, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, which is, again, I know absolutely nothing about that game. I've never played it. I've never played any Zelda game, but I know that this is a game that exists, and I know that it's named after a musical instrument that is, I think, roughly what's being described. I don't have a great sense for what an ocarina is, but I know that it's, well, a small instrument that makes perhaps sounds that are similar to what is in the clip. So I'm going with that. Question 5. A set of panpipes accompanies the title Satyr hanging upside down on from a tree in what Venetian artists painting the Flaying of Marsyas from the 1570s, who also painted Venus of Urbino and liked painting people with red hair. This is Titian. He's just the guy who did Venus of Urbino. I really appreciate the question that was actually a visual art question rather than a music question because, yeah, I know that stuff a lot better than the previous things. Finally, question 6. In the PIFA section of Handel's Messiah, the strings imitate what woodwind instrument played at the time by pastoral shepherds. In their modern Highland form, these instruments usually have multiple drones and a blow stick. I'm thinking it's like the bagpipes. I mean, woodwind scares me a little bit because I don't think of bagpipes as being wooden, but I don't know. Highland just makes me think of Scotland, and it's like played by shepherds. Like, multiple drones in a blow stick. I don't know what those words mean, but they honestly just kind of sound bagpipey to me. So I think I have to go with that and hope that that's the right idea. And I will enhance number 5 because I think it's not easy. It's just I happen to know, again, I know paintings a lot better than I know classical music. So we're going to go with 5 and see what happens. Don't know if this top one counts, but we're going to try it. Didn't count. There are none. That is not a bicycle. All right. Bagpipes is correct. Titian, ocarina, nice. Beer bottles. Oh, that's what's going on. Maurice Ravel, of course. It's just one of the other French guys. I think he was the first one that I mentioned, like, after Debussy, but it's like, again, I'm just guessing a random composer. Like, I don't know who it is. Martin Scorsese is correct. So 4 out of 6. 99 bottles of beer. I didn't know that that was what that was. I just know that is like that incredibly irritating song that like children sing when they want to be annoying. So like that's all I really know that for. I didn't realize it was like an actual jazz thing, but it makes sense. So 4 out of 6 is fine, and I think the one I enhanced is I think that's reasonably difficult. So yeah. So let's go to quiz 7, the final quiz of the day and the season actually. First of all, in 1686, a paper partially titled An Historical Account of the Trade Winds and Monsoons Observable in the Seas Between and Near the Tropics was published by what scientist, who also lends his name to an object that was seen in 1066 and considered an omen of the deaths that occurred during the Norman invasion? This is surely Edmund Halley. Halley's comet was the thing that was seen in 1066 at the Battle of Hastings. The whole biotapestry, etc., having Halley's comet depicted in it is kind of a famous thing. So this should just be Halley. Question 2. What foreign language word, which translates as divine wind, was first used in reference to strong winds that thwarted invading Mongol troops, but gained its most well-known meaning almost 7 centuries later? Kamikaze is just a Japanese term that means divine wind. I guess, I don't know, I just kind of knew that going in, but I did know that this was the origin of that word, but of course almost 7 centuries later is when there were Japanese, like, warplanes, you know, crashing themselves into ships. Question 3. Spanish galleons used the trade winds to sail west across the Pacific, but it was more difficult to find a route east across the Pacific. Once such a route was discovered, Spain established a consistent trans-Pacific trade route between Acapulco and what current national capital? Best guess here is Manila. I mean, if we're going across the Pacific and you're going from something controlled by Spain to another thing controlled by Spain, I can't really think of anything in the eastern Pacific Ocean that was controlled by Spain other than the Philippines. So I feel like Manila is just kind of the thing I have to guess here. Question 4. Francis Beaufort, who created the Beaufort scale for wind speed, is also known for rediscovering a gate near Antalya that is named for what person? Another structure named for this person is located far closer to Beaufort's homeland and measures about 70 miles in length. So this one took me a while, but I think I came up with an answer I like quite a bit. And that's Hadrian, because Hadrian's Wall, I mean, 70 miles sounds about right for the length of Hadrian's Wall. And Antalya is, of course, in Turkey. And I'm thinking Beaufort he's probably like English or French or something. So I was thinking, what's a thing like in that part of the world that could be of that kind of length and named for a person, etc. Right? So I'm just kind of thinking, and it took me a while, but I eventually thought of Hadrian's Wall. I was like, you know what? This makes a lot of sense. And yeah, so I'm going to go for that. It's a guess, but I feel pretty good about it. Question 5. Windhoek, which may translate to Windy Corner, is the capital of Namibia. Before it became an independent country, it was called a territory controlled by South Africa. Before that, it was a colony of Germany. I think it was one of the only... I guess the Germans, I think they controlled like Tanzania for a time as well, but I think Namibia is kind of the most famous of the German possessions in Africa. And there are a lot of sort of town names and stuff that are still kind of German sounding in Namibia. So that should be the answer there. And finally, question 6, A Letter to a Royal Academy is a 1781 treatise on passing wind by what American? The Royal Academy in question is the Royal Academy of Brussels, and the treatise was written while this man was serving as the ambassador to France, the highest post this man held. First thing I was going to guess was like Thomas Jefferson, because I know that he worked in France. I don't know what he was. He was he was something in France, a foreign minister or something like that. But obviously not the highest post he held because Jefferson was president. And I was also thinking who would write a treatise on something so silly, vulgar. Like it just seems like a kind of a silly thing. So I'm gonna guess Ben Franklin. I had no idea that he did anything in France. If he's even the answer, obviously. But I don't know. I feel like it makes sense at least. I mean, because like he's obviously famous and he's a founding father, etc. But I don't really think of him as anything other than like a polymath, right? He did a lot of stuff. He invented a bunch of stuff, and I think he worked in politics and he wrote a bunch of like political treatises and stuff. But I don't think he was ever like I don't think he ever held like a really high position in like the American government, you know? So I feel like it makes sense to be Benjamin Franklin. But I wouldn't have known anything about him in France, but this just kind of sounds like something he would write, if that makes sense. So this one is a total guess. It's more of a guess than Hadrian is, but I still feel like it has a chance for sure. Um, I think I'm going to enhance number one because I mean maybe it's much easier to figure out that this is Halley's comet than I'm giving it credit for, but that seems non-trivial to me. And the rest, like I don't feel confident enough about 4 or 6 to enhance them. And then I think 2, 3, and 5 are a little bit easier than one. So yeah, I think I'm going to go with one, but I'm not sure. We should. Oh, I missed one. No, I didn't. Never mind. It is actually Benjamin Franklin. Nice. I thought his name was Edmund with an O, but not that it matters. I'm probably wrong. I'm making a fool of myself. Why don't I? Why do I even say anything? Man, my brain is so scattered. When I like yap about this for so long, it's like I can't even like put sentences together. I just start like waffling and saying the weirdest things. My throat's sore for talking for 50 minutes, and I'm just like I'm totally off the rails trying to read through all that stuff on my screen and just like constantly talking. I don't know, for some reason it takes a toll on me, but we made it through. Deadline's not for another 2 hours, but yeah, that's 6 out of 6, and I'm really glad that the Franklin guess was right. I felt pretty good about Hadrian. Maybe I should have enhanced that, but I just haven't heard of Hadrian's Gate or whatever it was, so I didn't feel confident enough about it. But yeah, Franklin was a nice little bit of reasoning there because he was kind of the only like person who was prominent in the U.S. at that time who I don't know for like being president or being chief justice or whatever. Again, like Alexander Hamilton, for example. Again, he was like what even was he? I mean, he was Secretary of the Treasury or something. Again, like they all held important positions in government, and I just don't think of Franklin as being that. I already explained this. Why am I saying it again? I don't know. Like I said, my brain is like super scattered right now, and I'm just talking. Any word that comes into my head is just I'm just spitting it out. So anyway, 6 out of 6 on that quiz. More than enough yapping from me, I think. But it was a decent week. I mean, I didn't do that great with I think quizzes 1 and 4, I got 3 right. And then I think quiz 2, I got 4. The rest were 5s or 6s, though, I think. So it was honestly a pretty solid week. But I've also definitely had better before. So yeah, not a lot of names on the leaderboard at the moment. So hard to really say where I am in comparison to everybody else. But I am relatively happy with how that went. And I think it's going to land me again probably maybe around fourth or fifth for the season as a whole would be my guess. But yeah, we're just going to have to find out. So I will see you guys in a sec when we get to the final season standings. Alrighty, here are your final standings for week number 5. I finished in 11th with a score of 34.04. Definitely not my best week. I had a couple of rough ones, but to be honest, I mean, they were just hard quizzes, and there were a lot of questions that were very not in my wheelhouse. So it happens. Week 4, I finished in 8th. Week 3, I was in 2nd. Week 2, 6th. And week 1, 2nd as well. So it was my worst week of the season, but hey, it happens. So this is how the season standings looked overall. After the 5 weeks, I finished in 6th place behind, congrats, by the way, to Saluna, Rasmus, and Wiggy in particular for rounding out the top 3. Solar Sensei in 4th, Bugtown Cowboy in 5th. Happy enough with a 6th place finish. This is just a very impressive set of scores and just really good players, to be honest. So looking forward to the championship. Top 20 qualifies, so I'm definitely going to be playing in that. And I mean, the last few have gone pretty well. I haven't quite managed to win yet, but I've been close. So I feel like if I happen to get a set of questions that suits me, you never know what could happen. But yeah, that's going to be it for week number 5. I hope you guys enjoyed as always. I appreciate the support, and thank you, as always, to Looney and Benny for putting this together. They are legends, and yeah, it wouldn't be possible without them. And just week in, week out, the questions are so good, so well written, so well thought out. So massive thanks to them. And looking forward to the championship. So hopefully you guys are as well. I promise I will. I still haven't uploaded the season 6 one, but I swear I will. And yeah, season 8 one should come soon after that one. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.